Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. Rockwell's Talking Extra with the usually weekly comic book roundup. And this week, we're doubling up. We're covering both last week's books as well as this week's. So, let's get started, shall we? Yeah, I know. 2 weeks ago, I said we're done with War of the Realms. No more War of the Realms tie-ins. Sadly, reality has to prove a liar out of me. So, this video is going to focus on the last two War of the Realms tie-ins as well as the Avengers. So, we'll start off with the War of the Realms portion. War of the Realms, Uncanny X-Men number 3. So, where we left off, the X-Men were had retreated to a baseball stadium in Queens with some civilian survivors. Also, a group looking for. There's another group of X-Men, ex-affiliates that are out and about. But also, Sabretooth has kidnapped both Magic and Wolfsbane. And it turns out that Wolfsbane's ex-husband, Ramari, is working with them. Anyway, so the idea is that Ramari in Tyr's presence will convince Tyr, being Wolfsbane Ramari's son, will convince Wolfsbane to convince Magic to do what Sabretooth says, which is to basically give up and work for Malekith. However, yeah, she's not too keen on that, and Ramari's kind of like, hey, look, yeah, I can help, but I made a deal with Hela saying I wouldn't help, so sorry. But he does kind of help out at least a little bit. Magic says a few words for the Magic continues the battle against those who killed the Valkyries, and the group that she's with, consisting of her, Hope, and Sunspot, and Karma, come across Wolfsbane. Hope's not there. The group, consisting of Sunspot, Karma, and Moonstar, run into the recently escaped Magic and Wolfsbane, as well as Wolfsbane's deceased lover and son. So they get to the stadium. Reunions are had. And the attack is about to begin. Dark elves, frost giants. But there's a slight problem. They can't. But one of the things they've got, one of their potential, and of course they're joining the fray. One thing that they potentially have, they kind of don't at the moment, because Magic is currently wearing an amulet around her neck, which makes it so that she can only cast the spells that Sabretooth tells her to cast. So if Sabretooth does not tell her to open up a portal somewhere, she can't. The Sunspot pulls off the amulet, destroys it. However, the amulet, as the amulet was made from powerful magics, destroying it does have some backlash and kills Sunspot. But now, Magic has opened a portal, and all the civilians go through. And the Frost Giants and the Dark Elves follow. Except for one little thing. It wasn't the civilians the X-Men were protecting that went through the portal. It was duplicates of Madrox and Hope. With some borrowed clothing from the various X-Men. Sabretooth, of course, threatens to kill Magic, but then Wolfsbane attacks him. And then, when all is said and done, Wolfsbane cuts off his head and kicks it into one of her teleportation discs somewhere. After the fighting's done, Danny stands over the dead Valkyrie, says her goodbyes. Meanwhile, the spirits of the dead X-Men remind her that she's already lost one family. Don't lose another. Actually, it's the spirits. Looks like it's the spirits of the dead X-Men and the dead Valkyries. And that is it for that issue. And now, because the last issue can't just be the last friggin' issue, we have War of the Realms Omega. So this is basically an epilogue, really. It's bookended with a story between Heimdall and Daredevil. Daredevil's on top of a church. Him and Heimdall talk a bit. Daredevil's returning the sword, or Heimdall's sword to him. But he kind of mentions, and he did kind of brought up that he says he's done being a god. It's time for him to be a man again, or a devil. But he knows that he wasn't meant to be Heimdall. But they decide to have another look at the realms, and so we got to Jane Foster, who is overseeing, who's at the morgue of, she says where, the morgue of McCarthy Medical Center, where all the Valkyrie were brought. And damn it, I meant to look this person up. But one of the paramedics comes in and the two talk a bit, and they talk about what happened. And apparently, the hammer that Jane used in the finale of War of the Realms has now become a bracelet. An odd bracelet. And so Thor comes in and explains that Valhalla is now an empty room, shuttered and sealed. Dusty ale horns around a dying fire. But Brunhild's spirit rises and talks to Jane and names Jane Valkyrie. Our next story is in Jotunheim. some of the frost giants are griping about Loki's death and the fact that, yeah, technically speaking, Loki's the friggin' king. A smaller frost giant steals the lid of their of the pot they have for cooking their dinner and uses it to sled down a hill. And the smaller frost giant runs into Loki to talk a bit. Turns out that, well, it seems maybe Durf, the small frost giant, may actually have beaten Loki's record for in Jotunheim for being small. But he fends off. Instead of Loki fending off the ice giants, Durf does so. But Loki decides he's going to be a new. It said at the end that this is the story of the time after the war, how the smallest of the giants came to sit at the right hand of the throne, and destroy the outcast who would sit upon it. A new kind of king, a new kind of god, one who rules not by the blade, but by the shield. And set up for Loki's new ongoing. Then in New York, we got our setup for Punisher Kill Crew. Punisher comes upon some looters coming out of a grocery store who promptly explain, they're just hungry. Frankly said, okay, come back and pay for what you're taking. And he then also torches the corpse of a frost giant, saying, hey, here's some barbecue on the house. But he's basically going through, killing off some of the stragglers from the other 9 realms. There sees a bar filled with Asgardians celebrating. And that's what they're celebrating, and they kind of shoo him away, and like, it's no business of yours. Tell him to take a sour look elsewhere. And so he blows up the mug of beer in one's hand, and then Thor arrives. Tells the Asgardians, hey, this is not a time for cups. So he goes and finds the survivor of the beginning of the War of the Realms Punisher miniseries. The father who lost his wife and child to a frost giant. And he explains that he was tracking the monster that killed his wife and kid, but he escaped back to the cesspool he crawled from. And he, basically says, "Hey, I said I was going to get him. I'll get him." And he also adds that if he came, if the guy never sees him again, he killed the frost giant and died on the way home. Turns out, though, dude's found a bunch of other war orphans, basically. Explained to all of them that he was a monster hunter. And that's how Punisher Kill Crew begins. Then, turns out, though, that Daredevil's not the only one who's giving a weapon to someone. Heimdall gives Daredevil a pair of basically a pair of his, I guess the best way to describe it would be a pair of his Christmas sticks, made from pieces of the World Tree. they hear that they discover that someone's being mugged, and so the two of them jump into battle to save the person being mugged. And that is the end of War of the Realms. The Omega to the first issue's Alpha, I guess. These books are really more epilogue. Kind of like, okay, here's a taste of how these are changing. Maybe it'll get you to buy some of the new books we're going to put out for afterwards, huh? And yes, I will be buying Punisher Kill Crew. Moving on to Avengers number 21. So, where we left off with the Avengers, they were War of the Realms. They were on the winning side. But the Squadron Supreme of America is also a troubling thing. So, we open up on Thor and Iron Man. Thor is constantly picking up his hammer. Their one is basically the Team Hot Tub, but Thor is basically picking up the hammer, setting his hammer down, and then a minute or so later picking it right back up. And it's understandable. He hasn't been able to lift Mjolnir for quite some time, and now he can do it again. But the two are talking and, complimenting ourselves and then complimenting each other. Explaining that, and Tony tells Thor, hey, Thunderstick or no Thunderstick. Thor's always been the only god he followed to hell and back. And Thor can tell Hercules that Tony said that. And, of course, Thor's going to try and return the compliment, but, saying, if he could only have, if he could have only one mortal to stand by his side, no matter the foe they faced. And Tony just cuts off, like, you'd choose Steve. We'd all choose Steve. And hey, who wouldn't? And so he's sort of like, well, okay, yeah, that's right. But if the fight was in midair, but Cap comes in, and turns out that Iron Man, Tony wearing the helmet, is controlling or remote piloting a dozen suits of armor right now, cleaning up rubble all over the globe. And he thinks maybe he's gonna, superhero from the jacuzzi from now on. Tony Stark, the Invisible Jacuzzi Man. But they kind of insist, hey, come join us in the jacuzzi. And Tony seems like, oh, I don't think I have a swimsuit handy. And there's like, we didn't. So, but yeah, so the big three cooler jets. In the Pentagon, 4 Nick Fury live model decoys inform Phil Coulson that somebody has breached sublevel 9. That someone being the Black Panther. So Panther and Coulson have a chat about the have a chat. Namely about the impending confrontation between the Avengers and the Squadron Supreme of America. And Blade and Hulk get to the mountain, part ways. Blade with still with Boy Thing as he calls him. Robbie Reyes and Captain Marvel have appropriated, or have borrowed Tony Stark's speedboat because there are Muspelheim fire sharks in the waters around Avengers Mountain. So he Ghost Riders up and shows what he can do with a speedboat, which is actually pretty cool. Check that out. It's the Hellboat, y'all. Who doesn't want a Hellboat? I want a Hellboat. But back in DC, the Squadron Supreme shows up in Coulson's office and start lobbing threats at Panther, who's like, "Hey, I'm not here to fight. He's only here. He just wants to ask a question." The question he asks is, why does the Squadron trust Coulson? What has he done to earn that trust? He doesn't expect an answer because there isn't one. And as he leaves, he explains that when the Squadron tires of asking questions that Coulson won't answer, remember, the Avengers are not their enemies unless they're forced to be. And so, back to the hot tub. Cap starts to bring up shop talk, but is immediately stopped by Tony, saying, "Hey, no shop talk in the hot tub." But Tony kind of just it's like the old days, just hanging out. And Carol basically refers to the Avengers as being Earth's mightiest found family. When it works, and when the Avengers work, that's what it is. And then Robbie flames back on again, and he heat up the water they're in. In the penthouse of Avengers Mountain, however, Black Panther has the Mountain download the data collected from his suit, cross-referencing with the Squadron Supreme and Coulson. He wants to keep all the searches running. All the other reports are currently generating, and also have the computer search for what they have in common. At the end, however, we stop in Vegas. And, well, there are a few pieces on Mephisto's chessboard. And he wonders just what to do next. Amongst the pieces include Black Panther, I think Ursa Major, the Kree Supreme Intelligence, the Star Brand, Moon Knight, Ghost Rider, though the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider I should mention. I think that's Dracula, Hyperion, and Odin, amongst others that I'm not entirely sure. I think maybe it's supposed to be named, or I'm not sure. And that's the end of the issue. It's another common thing with Marvel events. There's usually an Avengers issue right afterwards. Say, okay, let's just unwind after all this, and set up the next half dozen stories. Last comic for the video, Savage Avengers #3. So where we left off with the Savage Avengers, Conan, who was already in the Savage Land, Wolverine, and Punisher had all ended up at Kulan Gath's stronghold for different reasons. Wolverine was there to rescue longtime friend and fellow occasional Avenger, Brother Voodoo. Crom was there to steal an amulet from Goth. Punisher was there because Cool Goth's flunkies stole the bodies of his dead family. So yeah, Frank shows up and just starts shooting the place up. Killing ninjas left and right, the Hand, until one of them calls him by name, sticks a side on the barrel of his gun. That one being Elektra. And she asks, she basically, hey, you're smart enough to know this is a trap. Why did you fall into it? And he explains, they got my family. So he's like, oh, well, okay, tell you what, I'll help you out. So yeah, you get Elektra and the Punisher killing people, while Cool Goth has Wolverine suspended over is basically constantly cutting Wolverine and spilling his blood. Since hey, he heals, and yeah, so Conan hears Wolverine's cries of pain, and it's like, well, shit, I guess I gotta go back. But there's something else that's following Venom, or following Conan, the Venom symbiote. And Brother Voodoo masquerades as one of the cultists and gets in close enough to stab Cool Goth, but it does no good because, well, magic. Then Punisher shoots the guy in the head, which also does no good. And, well, of course, just as Wolverine is saying, hey, that amulet you got, it's gone. You're never gonna see it again. That's when Conan shows up. And basically says, hey, I'll give you back the amulet if you let my ally go. And they're saying, let me buy these people from you. It is a barter of this amulet of power. Take it or I shall run you through. And it's like, we tried stabbing him we tried stabbing him in his heart. Conan says he has not yet been stabbed in the heart by me, which, I mean, true. So Wolverine is free. Cool Goth sends his people against his enemies. And yeah, big fight. And during the fight, Cool Goth takes the amulet back from Conan and sticks his hand through his chest, leaving him dying. So the Venom symbiote comes along and like, hey, that's a hole I can fit into. And he basically just kind of has it put on his armor and make a new sword, make a venomized sword. It's actually kind of neat. However, it turns out to be a little too late, as Cool Goth has managed to get enough blood to summon the Marrow God. But yeah, what you see on the cover there, that's kind of along the lines of what Conan did with the Venom symbiote, which is kind of neat. Anyways, that is it for this portion of the roundup. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Let me know my comic reading watchers out there. Let me know what books you picked up this week and last week. Which ones you plan to pick up next week? Anywho, links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal are in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off saying, live long and rock hard.